5:45 p.m., which means it's time for BCTV's Nightly News Roundup. I'm Roland Boyden, and this is 5:45 Live on Deck tonight. We're going to launch into the Slow Living Summit for a moment, take a look at what's going on there. We'll also break down GMOs, both in the U.S. Senate and in Vermont as well, and we'll break down this whole weekend. Of course, it was Memorial Day. We've got some great footage from that, but we'll also get some Morris dancers and the Brattleboro Goes Forth fundraiser in there as well. All that and more. Remember, we do it all in 15 minutes, so stick with us right here on 5:45 Live.
Military and you hear your service song being played, we welcome you to stand up and be recognized for your service to our great country. So this is Armed Forces Salute.
Welcome back to this May 28th, 2013 edition of 5:45 Live. I'm Roland Boyden. I'll be taking you through the next 15 minutes into the regularly scheduled 6 o'clock news. That's as we look at footage of Memorial Day ceremonies around the area, honoring those who've given their lives in the employ of the United States Armed Services. And it's a tough day for anyone honoring a late friend or family service member, but an important one nonetheless. All right, we'll head into our next story here, and for that we launch into the newsroom. That means animations in it. Ideally means over-the-shoulder graphics as well. All right, genetically modified foods, or organisms, if you go by the common acronym GMOs, have played a role in this spring's media buzz. But even as states like Connecticut and our own Vermont voted this session to require food companies to display genetically modified ingredients on their packaging, the U.S. Senate Thursday voted overwhelmingly to reject a Farm Bill amendment, courtesy of our own Senator Sanders, that would have allowed all states the right to require such labeling. And while federal regulatory bodies like the FDA continue to permit undocumented GMOs in consumer food products, our Representative Bernie Sanders says it's not a stretch to think that Americans are watching what they eat, checking labels, trying to make sure anyway that they're healthy, and it's where we'll start our look at the clips for this story.
If you want to know if your food contains gluten, aspartame, high fructose corn syrup, trans fats, or MSG, you simply read the ingredient label. Millions and millions of people every day look at labels. How many calories are there in the food? What are the ingredients in the food? This simply does what we have been doing as a nation for many, many years.
At a forum last month in Brattleboro, members of the GMO labeling advocacy group Right to Know urged Vermonters to take an interest in the things they ingest, but not to get caught up in all of the different issues surrounding food and consumer rights to that food.
There are lots of reasons we don't want GMOs, but this legislation is calling for the labeling of GMO processed foods in our state. It is very important to not muddy the waters, because that's what the industry wants. The industry wants to come in and make this 10 different issues about the rising price of food, about how farmers are against farmers, about all of these things, so that we can all be divided and we will no longer agree and we won't get our simple labeling bill passed.
That's Kat Buxton speaking at a forum taped by none other than hardworking Maria Dominguez. You can catch the whole thing by searching Right to Know at BrattleboroTV.org, where all our video goes up as part of our local programming video on demand. You can stream both our channels there as well. All right, we'll move on now and harken back to the weekend for a moment, including the Brattleboro Goes Forth July 4th parade, pre-parade fundraiser, which included Parks and Rec Director Carol Olott speaking with WTSA's Tim Johnson a little bit about the importance of the fundraiser, and who else was there but my hardworking, often desk co-host, co-captain, Joe Bushy. Let's take a look at the clip.
Well, this, 4th of July is a real community event for all parties involved, and I think the most important thing on the day is we really try to make this event affordable for the citizens of Brattleboro. And at events like today, raising money, we need everybody's support so we can continue to make this event free of charge. So it's so important, whether it's $1, whether it's a quarter, whether it's a company donation, anything will help us in keeping this event affordable.
That clip of Tim and Carol, courtesy of Joe, as I mentioned, but you can find out more, including where to see that footage we were looking at. You saw some 4th of July fireworks, also the parade. That's all at BrattleboroTV.org. You can watch the last several years on there. But you can also find out how to donate, get this parade going at Brattleboro Goes Forth, FOURTH, all one word, .com. All right, we'll move on into the stories now here and talk about another parade coming up on deck. And for that, we're going to launch back into our split screen here, back into the newsroom, as I've dubbed it. That's really just me with some graphics over the shoulder here. All right, even as we talk about 4th of July parades, another parade lies just around the corner. The now internationally renowned Vermont Agriculture Celebration Weekend, known as Strolling of the Heifers, is set to kick off June 7th through the 9th in Brattleboro, all preceded by the 3rd annual Slow Living Summit. That's the graphic over my shoulder here. Wrong shoulder. There we go. All preceded by the 3rd annual Slow Living Summit, a, quote, conference that's all about sustainable living, resilient communities, and the inner transformations necessary for living slow, end quote. And while the summit again looks to draw interest from around New England and beyond, Summit Marketing Director Martin Langveld says having local residents participate is just as important. We spoke with him here in our downtown studios. We've got the clip. Let's take a look.
We really welcome people from Brattleboro to take part in this. Even though we have people coming from all over the place, we really like to have a lot of Brattleboro people. We have some reduced rates, which you can check out on the website, that are available for local people who feel that they may not be able to afford the full registration fee.
You can find out more about that, Slow Living Summit, all one word, .org. That summit does include the likes of Chuck Ross and Cheryl Wilfong. Again, slowlivingsummit.org. All right. At one point, $550,000 may have seemed a little unattainable for members of the Latches Arts, looking to meet the fundraising goal needed to restore Brattleboro's iconic downtown theater. But even after major setbacks like Tropical Storm Irene, residents are likely to see major improvements coming. As Latches Arts has announced, they've received approximately $420,000 thus far, something Latches Arts Director Gail Nunziata says was more than a little hard to imagine in the aftermath of Irene. We've got a clip of her talking about that. Let's take a look.
Here we are in the glorious Latches Theater, and I'm here to tell you that it wasn't so glorious in 2011. For 46 days. It took a concerted effort of will and perseverance to get both the hotel and theater back into operation in those 6.5 weeks. Our recovery is still ongoing, now dealing with the financial fallout from the flood.
Moving on, we're going to, as promised, break down a little bit of the weekend. We talked about the Brattleboro Goes Forth fundraiser and some Memorial Day happenings, but there were also Morris dancers in town as well, as they do every year. They headed to Elliott Street, got the street all to themselves for a little footage taking, and who other than hardworking content specialist Maria Dominguez is there to capture footage, as she has in the last couple years as well. You can find this. It'll show next week on BCTV right here on Channel 8. That's perhaps then a good segue into our new on BCTV feature, where I get to promote this week's upcoming happenings on both our cable channels, and I get to do it with a split screen as I talk about Vermont State Poet Laureate Sidney Lea comparing the lives and works of poets Robert Frost and William Wordsworth in this month's First Wednesday lecture.
There's a complicated relationship between these two writers.
Frost and Wordsworth. You can check that out. That shows at 11:55 a.m. And you can also catch the latest Organic Politics episode from hemp activist and one-time gubernatorial hopeful Emily Payton. That also shows on Channel 8.
I find it so frustrating to have a ruling class that designates what we do and what we don't do.
That shows Thursday, 6 p.m. right here on BCTV Channel 8. And, of course, all those programs subsequently are available to stream at your leisure at BrattleboroTV.org. All right, that's a full lid for me. Thanks for checking in with us here on this midweek edition of 545 Live. Be sure to join us Friday for another live edition when we'll gear up for another weekend. We'll get plenty more Strolling of the Heifers footage, talk about the upcoming Slow Living Summit with some interviews with folks set to attend, all that and more. But in the meantime, make sure you stay safe out there. I will see you come the end of this week. Night, everybody.
helped do the first Radiothon with J. Wayne Corbeil. Talk about that, Larry.
It was the first, 1972, first year we were going to do the 4th of July parade. And Wayne said, it's not going to cost anybody a cent. We're going to raise the money. And Smith, you and the radio station are going to raise $1,000. And I said, what? And we raised $1,400 that first year. And the rest is history. 40 years later, it's still a wonderful 4th of July.
Here we are, 40 years later.
That costs absolutely nothing for the residents, but costs money to put on.
And now it costs roughly 10 times that amount to put on, so we need your support. What's the address for Brattleboro Goes Forth?
You can send donations to Brattleboro Goes Forth or on the web. I'm going to need to go Kevin on that one for you.
I believe it's box 1112 in Brattleboro, 05302.
Thank you,